Dzień dobry Państwu. Serdecznie witamy z drobnym opóźnieniem na naszym webinarze od zamknięcia finansowego do realizacji strategii. Ja nazywam się Andrzej Olesiński i będę miał przyjemność prowadzić dzisiejsze spotkanie. Ze mną jest również Wojciech Pierzchała, ekspert w dziedzinie transformacji finansowych i technologicznych.
Dzień dobry.
Oraz nasz gość specjalny Simon Mantavoni z firmy OneStream. Zacznijmy od krótkiej agendy. Na samym początku około 15-20 minut ja i Wojciech spędzimy na tym, żeby opowiedzieć o tym, jak budować spójną strategię, spójną roadmapę transformacji technologicznej, która tak naprawdę integruje procesy biznesowe i finansowe, a także usprawnia raportowanie zarządcze oraz też tak naprawdę kreowanie oraz realizację strategii w organizacji. Po tych 15-20 minutach oddamy głos do Simon, który tak naprawdę pokaże, jak ta droga od zamknięcia miesiąca do realizacji strategii może być przeprowadzona w nowoczesnym systemie EPM, jakim jest OneStream. Na samym końcu zostawimy sobie 5-10 minut na potencjalne pytania, czyli Q&A. Dobrze, ale zacznijmy od tego, jak przeprowadzić taką udaną transformację, taką podróż transformacji technologicznej w organizacji. Jak Państwo zapewne wiedzą bądź borykają się z tym problemem, spójna technologia, spójna roadmapa technologiczna to tak naprawdę duże wyzwanie we wszystkich organizacjach i też czuję, że wszyscy z nas byli kiedyś w tej sytuacji, że tak naprawdę funkcja finansów zamiast bycia strategicznym partnerem, wspierać podejmowanie strategicznych decyzji w organizacji, tak naprawdę skupia się na gaszeniu pożarów w trakcie zamknięcia miesiąca. I zanim przejdziemy do konkretów, pozwolę sobie na taką krótką alegorię, trochę próbując osadzić też właśnie budowę tej roadmapy technologicznej w innym kontekście. Myślę, że wiele osób z tego grona tak naprawdę ma za sobą albo ostatnie wakacje, miała takie naprawdę fajne wakacje w ostatnim czasie i tak naprawdę, żeby to się stało, żeby dojść do tego momentu, tak naprawdę trzeba było spędzić wiele dni na tak naprawdę planowaniu wakacji. Tak naprawdę nigdy nie zaczynamy od wyboru środku transportu bądź od definicji harmonogramu naszej wycieczki. Tak naprawdę zawsze definiujemy sobie na samym początku cel podróży, czyli dokąd chcemy dotrzeć. Dopiero w kolejnej kolejności, w kolejnym kroku wybieramy środek transportu i na samym końcu oczywiście rozmawiamy o harmonogramie, kolejności działań. Bardzo rzadko wchodzimy do samolotu bądź bardzo rzadko mamy taki komfort, żeby wejść do samolotu i zapytać się pilota, ok, dokąd lecimy. Tak naprawdę ta wycieczka, ta podróż jest poprzedzona wieloma przemyśleniami, wieloma negocjacjami i tak naprawdę sukces, udane wczasy tak naprawdę bardzo często determinowane są przez właśnie ten okres przygotowania i planowania. No i teraz próbując odzwierciedlić tą analogię, tą alegorię na taki właśnie świat biznesu, proszę wyobrazić sobie, że właśnie wyszliście z bardzo udanego spotkania strategicznego, bardzo udanego, gdzie tak naprawdę finanse dostały zielone światło, finanse i technologia dostały zielone światło na rozpoczęcie transformacji cyfrowej. Myślę, że tak naprawdę od tego, czego powinniśmy zacząć w tym momencie, to przygotowanie planu transformacji technologicznej, czyli tak naprawdę takiego dokumentu strategicznego, w którym określimy główne inicjatywy, sekwencje zdarzeń po to, żeby zrealizować cele biznesowe organizacji. I tak naprawdę kluczowe jest, żeby właśnie od tego zacząć, od tego wyjść z tak przygotowanym dokumentem, z tak przygotowanym tak naprawdę blueprintem, strategią, jesteśmy w stanie efektywnie zrealizować transformację technologiczną. Jeszcze zanim przejdziemy do szczegółów, zanim opiszemy to w większych konkretach, kilka statystyk, co też mogą pokazać na przykład taką perspektywę, gdzie organizacje są w danym momencie, jeśli chodzi o tak naprawdę określenie tej takiej strategii wdrożenia różnych systemów technologicznych w obszarze finansów. Ostatnie badania Gartnera pokazują, że aż 58% organizacji na świecie nie ma formalnej roadmapy technologicznej, czyli tak naprawdę można powiedzieć, że działają trochę na ślepo, nie budują strategii wokół właśnie wdrożeń tych platform technologicznych dla finansów. Co jeszcze bardziej pokazuje problem, z którym borykają się organizacje, to że 14% nawet organizacji, które nawet posiadają te roadmapy technologiczne, tak naprawdę im nie ufa. Do czego to może prowadzić? Braku spójności danych, silosów informacyjnych, ogromnie wydawanych pieniędzy na drogie często narzędzia, które tak naprawdę nie realizują celów biznesowych. Więc podsumowując ten wstęp, tak naprawdę co jest kluczowe, jakie są 3 filary budowy skutecznej roadmapy technologicznej. Przede wszystkim na samym początku organizacja powinna określić swoje cele biznesowe. W kolejnym kroku dopiero powinniśmy zdefiniować, jakich technologii potrzebujemy, czyli jak chcemy dotrzeć do osiągnięcia tych celów biznesowych i dopiero na samym końcu budujemy harmonogram, sekwencję zdarzeń i priorytety naszych działań. I teraz przekażę głos Wojtkowi, żeby trochę w większych konkretach powiedział nam, jak w praktyce wyglądają typowe roadmapy technologiczne.
Dziękuję, Andrzej. Tak, najpierw porozmawiamy sobie o takiej typowej roadmapie technologicznej, a później troszkę powiemy o tym, co w naszym mniemaniu tutaj nie działa i co nas zawodzi. A później porozmawiamy też o tym, no jak my widzimy budowę takiej roadmapy, żeby realizowała cele biznesowe, które stoją przed organizacją. No więc taka typowa roadmapa technologiczna, z którą pewnie wszyscy się spotkaliśmy, my na pewno się spotykamy na co dzień naszych klientów, to jest narzucenie na oś czasu pewnych podetapów wdrożeniowych w ramach konkretnych klas systemów, czy konkretnych już systemów aplikacji wybranych do realizacji danych działań. No i tak jak tutaj widzimy, mamy podzielone to na te klasy, tak? I to jest ta soczewka, przez którą patrzymy, czy ERP, czy RPA, czyli Robotic Process Automation, czy narzędzia klasy EPM, takie jak na przykład OneStream, który będziemy pokazywać w następnej kolejności. No i co? No nic dziwnego, że właściwie patrzymy na to w ten sposób, bo działy IT są podzielone w ten sposób, tak? To znaczy odpowiedzialność w zespołach IT bardzo często jest zdefiniowana poprzez konkretną aplikację, którą opiekuje się dany product owner. No i to w ogóle jest takie myślenie właśnie z perspektywy IT. Powoduje to, że tak naprawdę dostajemy listę aplikacji i systemów technologicznych, która może wesprzeć nasze procesy i pewnie wesprze w jakimś określonym zakresie, ale czy na pewno wesprze tak, jakbyśmy chcieli, no to tego do końca nie wiemy od strony biznesowej. Dlaczego? Głównie dlatego, że procesy bardzo często wymykają się poza konkretną klasę systemów, no i przekrojowo przechodzą sobie przez kilka z tych systemów czy aplikacji. Dobrze ustawiony proces to taki, który wspiera realizację celów biznesowych, a dobrze dobrana technologia to taka, która wspiera ten proces w tym, żeby właśnie ten cel wykonywać. Jak sobie weźmiemy taki pierwszy proces z brzegu, który myślę dobrze będzie obrazował to, o czym mówię, czyli proces record to report, który zaczyna się od wprowadzenia transakcji, czy od ewidencji transakcji w systemie klasy ERP. Później przechodzi przez narzędzia, czasami też to jest automatyzowane właśnie za pomocą RPA, przechodzi przez narzędzia takie jak OneStream, które wspierają zamknięcie miesiąca, wspierają konsolidację danych. Później znowu, czy to w systemie klasy EPM jest raportowany, czy bardziej na potrzeby analityczne w systemach klasy Business Intelligence, a jeszcze w międzyczasie dane oczywiście przychodzą przez hurtownię danych, no to tutaj widzimy, że żeby faktycznie wesprzeć proces i myśleć o procesie, no nie możemy wycinkowo patrzeć sobie po prostu na technologię. Takie podejście klasyczne, tak, takie, z którym się spotykamy, no ono powoduje właśnie to, że często umykają nam pewne zależności i współzależności, dlatego lepiej sobie wyjść od procesów, a nawet powiedzielibyśmy więcej od czegoś, co my sobie tutaj, idąc za Gartnerem, też nazywamy finance capabilities. No i tutaj oddam głos Andrzejowi, żeby trochę opowiedział nam o tym, co to właściwie jest.
No właśnie, bo tak naprawdę kluczowe w tym, o czym zaczęliśmy rozmawiać, czyli realizacji celów biznesowych, a technologii, która jest tak zwanym enablerem w realizacji tych celów biznesowych, są tak zwane możliwości funkcji finansowej. No i brzmi to dosyć górnolotnie, ale tak naprawdę co to oznacza w praktyce? Dla przykładu, jeśli celem biznesowym w organizacji jest poprawa marży, to tak naprawdę tymi finance capabilities jest tak naprawdę zaawansowany model kosztowy, który dla przykładu oczywiście, tak, zaawansowany model kosztowy, który tak naprawdę jest zasilany danymi transakcyjnymi na bieżąco, a także zasila modele planistyczne w czasie rzeczywistym. Dzięki temu funkcja finansów jest w stanie reagować na bieżąco, tak naprawdę rozpoznawać potencjalne optymalizacje kosztowe i wspierać właśnie realizację tego konkretnego celu biznesowego. I jak my definiujemy takie 3 kluczowe finance capabilities? Przede wszystkim mówimy o tych, które są tymi core i też tutaj Wojciech tak naprawdę wspomniał trochę o tych, bo przeważnie te podstawowe to są właśnie takie, które są realizowane w systemie transakcyjnym, nie tylko, ale również. No i te podstawowe finance capabilities tak naprawdę powinniśmy się skupić na tym, żeby je zautomatyzować i wystandaryzować. Drugim obszarem, drugim rodzajem tak zwanych tych kompetencji finansowych są te, które my nazwaliśmy jako wyróżniające, czyli te, które mogą nam pomóc zdobyć przewagę konkurencyjną, jak na przykład zaawansowane scenariusze what if, analizy wrażliwości, prognozowanie kroczące, zautomatyzowane prognozowanie kroczące i tak dalej. No i oczywiście jest też ta trzecia grupa capabilities innowacyjnych, których tak naprawdę jeszcze nie mamy, jeszcze ich nie stosujemy, ale prawdopodobnie będziemy ich potrzebować w przyszłości. I tutaj przychodzimy do połączenia właśnie celów biznesowych, tych kompetencji capabilities w dziale finansów i controllingu oraz do technologii. Tak zdefiniowane te 3 najważniejsze kroki mogą nam pomóc właśnie w skutecznej transformacji technologii w finansach. No i tu już przejdziemy do konkretów, więcej powiemy o właśnie tym obszarze technologicznym.
No właśnie, mamy zdefiniowane cele biznesowe, no i teraz musimy przełożyć te cele, jakie wesprzemy technologią, tak? Przede wszystkim musimy zacząć od tego, jaką technologię posiadamy. No, nazywamy to z angielska analiza ASIS, tego środowiska technologicznego. No i tutaj jest kilka kluczowych aspektów, na które musimy zwrócić uwagę. Przede wszystkim nie możemy patrzeć wycinkowo, tak? To znaczy w organizacjach szczególnie dużych, bardzo często mamy bardzo dużo aplikacji, które są, no, można powiedzieć, Mercedesami w swoich klasach, a wykorzystywane są punktowo. W związku z tym, robiąc taką analizę ASIS i przegląd środowiska technologicznego, które mamy, nie możemy wyłącznie patrzeć na to, w jaki sposób obecnie wykorzystujemy dane narzędzie i do czego je wykorzystujemy. Musimy patrzeć szeroko, co ono posiada, jakie możliwości posiada, jak się rozwinęło od czasu, kiedy je wdrożyliśmy. No i właśnie tutaj znowu zreferuję do narzędzia takiego jak OneStream, którego być może gdzieś zespół finansowy wykorzystuje, czy wdrożył sobie na potrzeby konsolidacji finansowej. No i gdzieś tak zostało to narzędzie zaszufladkowane u nas w organizacji. Z biegiem czasu przychodzi moment, w którym należy zacząć planować operacyjnie, być może, nie wiem, jest use case zoptymalizowania stoków magazynowych. No i wtedy nie myślimy o tym narzędziu. Bardzo często nawet operacje nie wiedzą o tym, że istnieje takie narzędzie jak OneStream, w organizacji, jest skupiony, mamy na to licencję, możemy z tego korzystać. No i właśnie wtedy trzeba mieć to na uwadze, tak, że możemy też te narzędzia, które już mamy, wykorzystać do nowych, pojawiających się potrzeb. To jest pierwsza rzecz. Druga rzecz to jest, czy ta technologia właściwie pozwoli nam na to, żeby wykonać te nasze procesy, które będą wspierały wykonanie celów biznesowych. Kolejna rzecz to jest, czy faktycznie te nasze, czy te technologie, które posiadamy, ta architektura, no jest odpowiednia, jest przyszłościowa, można powiedzieć, tak? My teraz bardzo dużą falę widzimy systemów, które były kiedyś wdrażane jako systemy on-premise, które teraz przestają być wspierane przez dostawców, no dlatego, że dostawcy rozwiązań technologicznych przechodzą teraz bardzo mocno do chmury. No w związku z tym to też trzeba wziąć pod uwagę, tak? Czy nie kończy się przypadkiem cykl życia danego narzędzia, które mamy i czy nie pora na reimplementację czegoś nowszego? No a trzeci aspekt to oczywiście aspekt finansowy, samej opłacalności i kosztowności danego narzędzia. No i te trzy perspektywy chcemy sobie to generalnie jakoś tak bardziej skwantyfikować, tak? Chcemy podejść metodycznie do tego, w jaki sposób oceniamy tą naszą architekturę technologiczną. No i tutaj w wierszach mamy właśnie te możliwości funkcji finansowej, czyli te finance capabilities albo szerzej business capabilities. Mamy powiedziane, jakie narzędzia wykorzystujemy, które wspierają te procesy, no i oceniamy sobie ten stan assist z perspektywy trzech takich soczewek, tak? Pierwsza to jest, jak dobrze one właściwie odpowiadają na potrzeby tej naszej funkcji procesowej, jak dobrze wspierają realizację celów. Druga to jest, jak bardzo pasują do naszej architektury technologicznej, tak? Tutaj to, o czym wspominałem na poprzednim slajdzie, plus same możliwości integracyjne tych narzędzi. A trzeci to oczywiście poziom nakładów. Możemy to albo kwantyfikować do liczby, albo kategoryzować niski, średni, wysoki. No i jak mamy już ocenione to właśnie w przekroju tych możliwości funkcji finansowych, wrzucamy sobie to na macierz, na matrycę, no i wizualnie bardzo szybko zobaczymy, które z tych możliwości, czy które z tych zdolności funkcji finansowej mamy zadbane, to będziemy widzieli wtedy w prawym górnym rogu, że to jest dobrze, że tutaj i narzędzie jest dobrze dopasowane do naszej architektury technologicznej, no i do samych potrzeb. Takimi pewnie nie będziemy chcieli się zajmować, chyba że koszty będą za duże. No a te, które widzimy w lewym dolnym rogu, wiemy już, że na nie będziemy musieli poświęcić trochę czasu i one najprawdopodobniej na naszej roadmapie będą musiały się znaleźć. W tym momencie jesteśmy już gotowi do tego, żeby zdefiniować sobie inicjatywy wdrożeniowe, czyli inicjatywy takie biznesowe, które do wdrożenia doprowadzą, tak aby jakby na tę roadmapę zostały włożone. Natomiast jeszcze nie wiemy, jakie są priorytety, od czego powinniśmy zacząć. No i w tym celu oczywiście musimy wziąć pod uwagę same takie procesowe zależności pomiędzy narzędziami. Być może najpierw musimy ustrukturyzować dane w systemach źródłowych, żeby później wdrożyć system analityczny, ale również powinniśmy tutaj wziąć pod uwagę samą strategię biznesową i profil ryzyka, tak? Jeśli mamy duży dług technologiczny w zakresie narzędzi, które wspierają nasze zdolności związane z regulacyjnymi zobowiązaniami, które zostały narzucone przez państwo czy przez regulatora, no to wtedy faktycznie musimy wziąć pod uwagę, że wcześniej powinniśmy zająć się tym tematem, no a później wiadomo, zgodnie ze strategią, jeśli nasza strategia mówi o tym, że idziemy w stronę wzrostu, to pewnie będziemy celowali w narzędzia klasy IPM i tak będziemy sobie to dostosowywali i przesuwali, żeby ustalić taką roadmapę, która będzie wspierała realizację celów biznesowych poprzez jak najlepsze dopasowanie do procesów, będzie spójna wewnętrznie w ramach całej architektury technologicznej, no i będzie odpowiednio skaskadowana i sfazowana, tak żeby zrealizować jak najwyższe korzyści. Teraz Andrzej?
Tak, już teraz krótko podsumowując, zanim przejdziemy do części praktycznej. Podsumowując te ostatnie 20 minut, tak naprawdę kluczowe jest to, że faktycznie przygotowując tą ścieżkę transformacji technologii w finansach, powinniśmy najpierw wyjść od celów biznesowych, zdolności funkcji finansowej, następnie zdefiniować, jakie systemy, jakie use cases na tych systemach powinny zostać zorganizowane, a w kolejnym kroku już przejść właśnie do sekwencji zdarzeń, tak? Czyli spriorytetyzować sobie poszczególne potrzeby, i jak te poszczególne potrzeby w jakim czasie mogą pozytywnie wpłynąć na spełnienie celów biznesowych organizacji. Tak, tutaj Wojtek też wspomniał, bardzo często wdrożenia narzędzi typu ERP są wieloletnimi projektami. Tak naprawdę ta realizacja celów biznesowych wtedy, czy też pozytywny impact na biznes wynikający z tego wdrożenia może być odłożony w czasie, a są systemy, które mogą w krótkim czasie zboostować naszą organizację i pomóc nam w realizacji tych celów biznesowych. Oczywiście nie powinniśmy zapominać o dwóch bardzo istotnych kwestiach, czyli przede wszystkim data governance, jakość naszych danych podstawowych, nie tylko danych podstawowych, oraz co zupełnie nie wybrzmiało na tym spotkaniu, ale tak naprawdę co jest bardzo często krytyczne w organizacjach, to właśnie proces zarządzania zmianą, czyli też proces adaptacji danej technologii, nowej technologii w organizacji po to właśnie, żeby zmaksymalizować efekt biznesowy. I czas na demo. Bardzo dziękujemy za te pierwsze 20 minut. Zaczynamy część praktyczną. Handing over to Simon.
Thank you very much. Got to learn some Polish today. Hi, happy to be here. Simone Mantovani, OneStream Software. I actually thank you again for taking the time here to be with us. I'm going to steal the clicker from you, and I'm going to walk us through just a few slides, and then we're going to go right into the solution because it's all about the demo, right? So we want to see some software. So a little bit of a glance for those of us that are maybe newer to OneStream. OneStream by the numbers, around 1,700 customers globally in 45 different countries, 17% of Fortune 500 companies in there. But let's get into what we are. Since the start, well, since 2012, our vision has been the one to be a uniquely unified solution. One application, one data model, one environment, right? That had certain core services. Our founders come from data quality on one side, FDM, HFM on the other side. So financial intelligence, best-in-class solution for the last 20, 30 years, right? So all of this in one uniquely unified solution that is then infinitely extensible, as you can see in this slide over here. So it can adapt to processes and sub-processes within the finance function for the office of the CFO, right? But also outside of the office of the CFO. And then, of course, we're all talking about AI today, so this part of today's demo will also include certain hot topics of AI and agentic functionality. So let's look at the center of the slide. OneStream is about a solution that covers what you must do, right? Core finance, statutory, regulatory reporting, right? Static financial analysis, right? For understanding how companies are moving and reporting to stakeholders within the companies, outside of the companies, and so forth. But OneStream, being a uniquely unified solution that's infinitely extensible, is also about what you want to do as the office of the CFO, right? Operational analytics. So agile financial planning, it's called in certain contexts, right? So going a little bit more in depth into the operations and moving a bit further away from the Office of Finance to understand the underlying numbers, right? Of your P&L, of your management reports, of your business reviews, and so forth. Of course, if we've understood this so far, then OneStream is also about, with that AI-powered part, what you need to do to be on top of things in these changing times. And so you've seen in the slides earlier shared by our colleagues here at PwC that most solutions out there have some kind of an AI solution that integrates with them. Today, what I'm going to talk to you about in the second part of this demo is how we actually have built our own AI solution for the Office of Finance within that uniquely unified, infinitely extensible solution and platform that we offer. And last thing, while I wrap up on this slide, everybody out there is talking about a platform. What we mean by platform is software in which you can write software without generating any new software. And essentially, it's like, an iPhone or a smartphone that I'm using today to get to this wonderful office where I'm presenting. I use the core functionality, like location services, to navigate there, and those same location services are running in the background on Outlook, for example, to remind me that this meeting was going to occur at the time it started. Or maybe when I took a picture of my kids, it tagged the geosat location of that. So all these services that I mentioned, data quality, financial intelligence, security, audit trail, and so forth, can be leveraged for, yes, of course, core finance aspects, operational analytics, and we'll see how with the help of AI. I have just one or two more slides before we dive into the demo. So we've talked about Gartner during the course of our presentation. For now 3 times have we been recognized as a leader in 2 Gartner Magic Quadrants. That's financial close and consolidation and financial planning. And so I think now users and the community is starting to recognize that uniquely unified solution that is available for the Office of Finance. So now we're going to see in the course of this demo how we bring all of this together. And I'm going to switch to a demo app. I'm going to start sharing my screen over here, showing you a company called Gulfstream. It's a dummy company that produces golfing equipment that I am absolutely ignorant about. Just let me know when you see my screen. Fantastic. So I don't want to bore you with my browser of choice in this case and all the different favorites. So what I'm going to do right away is press F11 and see the full screen. Welcome to this Gulfstream app, this demo app that I have. I usually demo several different parts of the solution to different stakeholders within and outside of the Office of Finance. So you're going to see a lot of buttons up here that may or may not necessarily be relevant for today's session. To give you an idea of this uniquely unified solution, what I want to start with is our reporting capabilities, our analytical layer, right? So I'm going to delve into this reporting tab, and I'm going to pull up some financial reports over here. So are we a BI solution? No. Do we aspire to be one? Absolutely not. But we have very advanced BI capabilities to do all those trend charts, waterfall charts, heat maps, and so forth that you may want to use to portray your information. And by the way, if you click this button over here on any of these representations in the dashboard, you can edit that BI viewer as an end user and then change the way you are portraying data quite swiftly with a drag and drop kind of methodology. So none of what you're seeing here is actually flat. If I actually click on one of these graphs and charts, you're going to see, right, the explanation of, let's say, North America for Gulfstream is a business unit comprised of several different legal entities. You're going to get the commentary of the controller for that business unit, but you're also going to be able to see the commentary, the aggregated commentary for the single operation sites, for the single legal entities, what have you, that make up that business unit, right? So a single repository of truth in one place of information at different levels, at different layers, operational and then financial, that you can query when you please. Talked about data quality a lot. I'm not going to delve into the specifics, but again, let's say I want to understand this KPI over here. I can click on that KPI. Maybe I've been on parental leave. Maybe I come back. I even might have forgotten what my name is, but I can go into that KPI and understand how that KPI is constructed. First of all, you'll see this cube view, which is just another word we use in OneStream for form, that represents the trend of that KPI for the last 12 months. Maybe the comparisons with the prior year's actuals, maybe the comparisons with the forecasts of that KPI, be that budget, forecast, whatever you want. I'll use these names interchangeably. So what I can do from anywhere in the solution is I can actually right-click on any data point that's there and then drill down and get into the details. I'm not going to bore you with that today, but remember, data quality is that fundamental cornerstone on which OneStream was built. Get data in right the first time around and then leverage it for whatever process you want. Planning, analysis, close, consolidation, operational planning and analytics, right? And all you need to do then is with a few clicks of a button, go and explain that KPI. So if I click on this, I will have here the explanation of how that KPI is actually calculated. And then I can go drill down onto those green cells. I hope that the color actually portrays on the screen that you're watching this webinar on today. But if I wanted to, I could, instead of clicking around, select maybe one account and then go to the lowest level of detail over here. This capability is so strong that through our connectors, we can actually query the information system, right? And pick up any underlying piece of information, be that a contract, be that an invoice, be that whatever it is that is lying in the ERPs that we talked to that we talked about today. And the way you would do that is you would load results from that imported cell. So if this is the lowest level of detail of data in OneStream, we've gotten here from a high-level dashboard. And I'm not saying that your typical group business controller, VP of finance, or CFO would go to that level, but it's just for you to take home with you that at the tips of, with your fingertips, you can access whatever information you want without waiting on a call on a colleague in a different jurisdiction, different time zone, or different language, or public holiday. Let's look at another way you can use OneStream, just as a sprinkle. And I'd like to show you maybe a process in which I was spending 90% of my time when I was on the other side of the table as a group business controller, right? Compiling reports. What if you could have the possibility of templates of rows and columns, essentially, to portray the information you want? So maybe I want an income statement, right, with a high level of detail, with variance commentary. Maybe now I want to switch to a balance statement, all in one place, right? And then I am more interested into a deeper level of detail. And instead of a commentary, maybe I want to see a consolidated view of these numbers, right? That one source of the truth. Again, just with a few selections, I can navigate through my financials, my operational data, my ESG data, everything that is in OneStream. So we've seen a little bit of how we can use OneStream for reporting. Now I want to take you through a different approach. Let's look at a more operational user, someone involved maybe in the day-to-day closing or budgeting process. What I'm going to open up here actually is the task manager. Let me just have confirmation that you can see it. Fantastic. So Task Manager is one of those solutions that relates to us being infinitely extensible, for example. So when you need a tool to govern a process like task management and monitor all the different tasks, and for example, even close meetings, right? A task that doesn't typically sit within a CPM, EPM, call it performance management solution, we have built a solution that can enable you to do so. There are multiple solutions in there built by us to leverage those capabilities and cater for processes within and outside the finance function, like strategic planning, like account reconciliations, transaction matching, like, for example, workforce planning, and so forth. The Task Manager. There are other solutions built by partners on OneStream, so they're not different modules, right? Neither are these. They are just pre-configured solutions that you can turn on and turn off. When are they built by partners? When we recognize that we are a software company and we do not, for example, have the expertise of IFRS 16 lease accounting or Tax Pillar 2, for example. There are better equipped companies out there that have this competence and know-how, and they just build it on OneStream, and you can turn it on and turn it off. This is an example of one of these. You can see that I can map an activity that's not even actually an activity in the system, but I want to map it. This could be a budget kickoff meeting, for example, or the end of a business review cycle, or whatever you want. Then there are more operational tasks like the load of trial balance, right? So what's kind of nifty about OneStream is that I can have the full visibility of all the pertinent information of that task in one place with this bird's eye view, this control tower view of where we are, whether I'm sitting in a local level organization, whether I'm a group financial controller, for example, a VP of finance and whatnot. And again, I have the possibility to have embedded instructions if I need to, so a PDF or video training material to tell me how I'm supposed to go about this task. So I don't need to wait on, Simone, who never answers his phone or reads his emails too late, right? So for example, I clicked on this task, which is loading of a trial balance. There's been an import of that trial balance. It's been mapped to the different dimensions of analysis that I have: accounts, cost centers, what have you, flows and whatnot. And then there are, for example, there might be the need to have confirmation rules. Confirmation rules, why? Because the end users, and OneStream is a tool made for the end users to be maintained by the end users, are the first line of defense of your organizations, or our organizations. So wouldn't it be great to have the possibility to create whatever type of confirmation rules you want? For example, have you loaded the trial balance and do assets equal liabilities and equity? Have you loaded all the headcount for the data? Ooh, look here, there's a yellow warning. There is some intercompany mismatch going on. And so it'll give me some detail here that then I can go dig into if it's holding up the closing process, or maybe I can fix this in the next period, since maybe there might be a threshold for which which it is yellow and not red, for example, you can apply this reasoning to whatever other process you want to build on that uniquely unified solution. Lastly, what I used to use, which was kind of cool, was this view over here. When I would load data in, right, and then I wanted to see what it is that I was loading, I would maybe select on an account over here, or let's select another one, right? And then here on the right is I have a view in real time of what that source information comes from. So the ERP level of detail of this information that came into OneStream. So on the left side here, lowest level of detail on OneStream. On the right side here, source data, where it's coming from. All these accounts are actually going into, for example, cash deposits on this balance statement. So now let's move forward into, for example, this was a closed process. So maybe let's see how we consolidate all this information, right? Financial intelligence, that best practice from HFM. Here, a view of my numbers and data coming in from different data sources that I may have. Here, for those of us that are acquainted with, for example, HFM, you will see something quite familiar. So you can look at your consolidation status going in and going out. Let's look at instead, for example, in the closing process and in the consolidating all the numbers, that intercompany mismatch. I may want to have a cockpit view of, all those mismatches that are occurring. So I might want to click on these. If I do click on these, down here, I'll have the amounts. If I click further, thanks to that transaction matching solution that's pre-configured on our solution exchange space, I will see transaction by transaction at an ERP level, which ones have been matched and which ones instead are holding up the closing, for example, like this one here. Let's look at a different way to use OneStream. I might want to look at dynamic currency analysis, right? So we have dedicated dimensions to manage that. And so also to pull out pre-built reports on currency translation reserves and currency translation adjustments that usually we all know in that part of the world can be sometimes a little bit painful to go through. Thanks to OneStream now, I can analyze my numbers directly and see what the actual effects were, nature by nature, entity by entity, and especially I can discern between my operational variance, improvements in my performance within the organization, and instead what could have been an effect of a currency effect, whether that was a spot rate, an average rate, a beginning balance rate based on the type of account it refers to, based on the organizational structure, based on the consolidation logics, and so forth. All this in one solution. Let's move over to our planning part, because then I want to take you to something more exciting, which is, the AI part. So typically planning, let's think about different ways we can do that. Top down, bottom up, a mix of the two. Let's think about that. Let's think about scenario modeling. We mentioned it in our presentation earlier. Maybe I want a tool where I can model for certain KPIs that I use at a executive management team level that I commit to for the board. So they could be whatever, 8, 10, you decide. This is an example. It's not exhaustive. But here you have, for example, a what if scenario. And they could be what if 1, what if 99. Hopefully, let's not hope for another pandemic or, geopolitical instabilities we've seen or trade wars and so on and whatnot. How will they affect our organization? We can start mapping for that, right? And we can instantaneously see when we do so in OneStream, a high-level view of what that would imply in terms of variances, in terms of my baseline. Is the baseline extrapolation of actuals or the extrapolation of the last approved forecast? You decide. That's a process decision. But you see when you're modeling with your what-if scenario, upside, downside, what if 99, the variances in terms of your P&L, in terms of your balance statement, and your free cash flow position at the end of the month, quite visually. Let's say you're satisfied with that modeling and you want to use that to build up your budget bottom up, your forecast bottom up. All you need to do then is go and seed this to the budget target. So let's go and look at what that could look like in a more financial operational planning cycle. I'm going to go into my planning part of the application. I'm going to go to the budget. I can use budget, forecast, rolling forecast interchangeably. The way we built this demo app is that we want to start with what we're aiming towards first, our end result. What's that? A P&L. P&L could be, now for simplicity's sake, in this app, I put entities, but it could have been per markets, could have been per products, per service lines, per functions, however the organizations are organized. And you want to see how you're going to deviate in terms of that target that comes from the seeding of that strategic plan that we have actually made our commitments to in terms of the executive management team, the CFO, and whatnot. And you can then see quite visually right away how we're deviating from that. Maybe you can have some call outs of the biggest expense items here per cost center, and you can then go through a workflow just like we did in the closing process or in the consolidation process. We go now through different steps of a workflow, and there could be assumptions like drivers and whatnot that we can use to calculate other metrics. Personnel costs, we'll see that. We want to calculate their wages per, and let's say the fully loaded cost of labor based on the jurisdictions we're working on. We can insert that in an assumptions table and then use that when we're modeling. Another thing, we talked a lot about data quality when we import information, right? But there's also going to be, at one point in your organization's data input, correct? If there's going to be data input, you want that audit trail capability strong, not in a big brother approach, but rather in a get data in right the first time around type of approach. Why? Again, I could be confused. I could have not read the last minutes of the last meeting that we had on the budget. So I can go into drilling down on this number because it does look a little bit funny, 250, 250, 250. Let's see who has actually put that number in there. So again, I can go to my drill down window, and we have a dedicated dimension for that. It's the origin dimension. You'll notice it's the only one that's green here in which I can drill down into. And you'll notice right away that that origin dimension has an import member and a forms member. So this probably came from the last approved forecast or from an ERP or from a solution that we're using at an operational level to budget for that line item. And then there has been a top level adjustment made on that because someone input a number on that cell. So let's go and see what that's about. Right click, audit history for forms, and I can see all the submitted data cells. So I can see that there have been several adjustments, in fact, in 3 different cells. And if I close here, I can see that it was me logged in as an admin with today's date and timestamp, actually, going out and adjusting these while we were working. So again, I have certainty, data quality at all levels in OneStream, and I can use that going forward. So now, agile financial analytics and operational planning, a relational approach, right? We think of performance management solutions with dimensions of analysis, right, and whatnot, but sometimes we need even more levels of detail. Let's think about, for example, the workforce that we want to hire. We want to hire different professional figures, you'll see here. And then we need to start compiling. We might not know their names yet, to be defined as you see here, but we might start compiling what grade level they're going to come in, what period they're going to come in per, like period 3, period 5, period 12. We might want to then determine the wage and the bonus, right, apart from the full-time equivalent of that. How do we do that? Well, here with the midpoint, we can decide from that table of assumptions we had over here, or we can override those assumptions, or we can, if they're already employed, use the actuals, right? Then we can go and put in all those pieces of information relating to what entity, what cost center, what region, for example. All these levels of detail are even more granular than what you typically find in a performance management solution. Why am I making this point? Well, let's go in here and let's pull up this P&L. I'm going to go and look at this P&L where we see salary here. Let's go and pull up this salary row, or this reporting line over here, and we will see now the level of detail of the actuals, and then we will see here the new hires to be defined, sales support and whatnot. So now I have punctually per reporting line all the granular level of detail that I needed to explain in the next business review why the budget looks the way it is in that reporting line, in those other reporting lines, for that cost center, for that dimension of analysis, for that market, for that service, for that product, you name it. All right, let me close that. And of course, you can then do all the other fancy things you want to do. So this same approach you can use for project planning, marketing expenses, capital planning, cash flow planning. You can do your allocations with whatever staged process you want there. This is, in a nutshell, OneStream's overview of a end-to-end uniquely unified solution for the Office of Finance that can cater for your core finance. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to the slides. So I'm going to stop sharing a second because I want to walk you through a little bit of the news that we had from our customer event recently in London, Splash EMEA. So there are new releases. So this is for those of you that already know OneStream, are using it. There are new releases within the core finance part. So you need to keep an eye out for the allocations manager. You know, for example, that we've released in February this year an ESG solution on that solution exchange space. So not another module, not another app or anything. In that uniquely unified solution, you have an ESG solution in there. And now we're at version 2 of this solution. We also have news regarding the journal entry manager, Tax Pillar 2, right? I've talked about that. That's a solution developed by a partner on OneStream for OneStream. And then, of course, for those of us that are interested, why not think about different implementation methodologies, which I didn't mention at the beginning, right? You can start from scratch, from the ground up, as maybe our advisors here at PwC can advise you, or maybe you want to hit the ground running fast in a matter of weeks. And we have express solutions for that. CPM Express is one of those. And we've released now one for the IFRS accounting standards. So to cater for our EMEA customers, we've already been having quite some success with our CPM Express with US GAAP in over the other side of the Atlantic. Now we're seeing a big rise in requests for CPM Express IFRS. With regards to OneStream itself, another few things to keep in mind is please consider upgrading to V9 for those of you that are already on there. You will see notable enhancements in terms of performance optimization, more plug-and-play type of functionality, drag and drop, like when we first started using, I don't know, Apple computers and Macintosh, a better user experience, reporting enhancements, and of course, a better and improved admin experience with the productivity package. So now let's talk about the exciting stuff, AI everywhere. So before I get into it, I just want to run you through maybe 2 slides of what we're going to be talking about. But AI is everywhere. I think most of us here in the room and elsewhere use some kind of chat GPT agent-like functionality for even our day-to-day. And why not? We probably might also use it in our work, or maybe using Copilot to navigate around all the different things that we have at work and help us and assist us with certain tasks. So what's our finance AI offering? We break it down in these 3 main areas. Forecast, time series, machine learning, right? Forecasting. That's been around now since 2023. And most of the customer logos that you see here are the ones that are interested in this type of functionality in OneStream. We also have released a studio-like functionality. I'll have a slide on that. But essentially, that could be more like anomaly detection, fuzzy matching. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the exciting stuff, the agents, and how those digital assistants can actually help you within OneStream, built for OneStream, built for the Office of Finance, and that you don't have to keep retraining because we've already taken care of that for you. So, what's required for Finance AI? Well, that AI is trusted, secure, purposely built for the Office of Finance, not that you have to keep training it, right? Like when you ask ChatGPT a question, and it has to be contextual. So with regards to the AI forecast, you know, that machine learning type of functionality, I'm just going to click through a few animations here on my slide. Essentially, what we've seen is that it increases accuracy and decreases effort. And this is a testament to all the projects that are out there. Now, analysts say that 8% of the AI projects are a success. In terms of Sensible AI Forecast, 100% of our projects have been a success. So, you know, with the appropriate NDAs, just please go out there to our customer base and talk to them about how it has improved their experience. Studio functionality. Let me go through a few animations here in the interest of time. So, what type of solutions? Again, those solutions that can help you with anomaly detection, fuzzy matching, the narrative summarizer. Hey, help me understand what happened on this reporting line for this business unit and so forth, right? And just helping the organization cluster certain types of information and understand, for example, the overperformers, the underachievers, and so forth within your application. Now, let's talk about Sensible AI agents. Today, I'm going to talk to you about our finance analyst, and we're actually going to query it, and we're going to see how we can use the finance analyst. So we're going to query it for a specific period. Then we're going to go and use the search functionality. And we're going to actually use that to understand how to navigate, for example, within the application. And also, we're going to use our deep analysis agent to analyze, for example, data that is even more granular and scattered in our environment to make sense of, for example, I don't know, discounts or whatnot within OneStream's Gulfstream demo application. So, where are we on our journey with agents? Basically here, we are now starting to open our architecture. So our OneStream agents will start to communicate with external AI systems, an example of which you see on the lower bottom of this slide. We've achieved the first 3 steps, and we're working very hard to go and complete and achieve that 4th step. So let's talk about the finance analyst before we jump into the solution again. What can you do today is represented on the left side of the screen. It's comparisons, analysis of trends, standard reports, and so forth. And today we're keen on delivering very shortly in the future, in the next few months, additional functionalities that you can use in terms of the finance analyst. So drivers, rankings, calculations, visualizations. In the future, on the right, you'll see what the finance analyst's complete journey that we see in 6 months ahead and more, what it will be actually able to do going forward. And that's what we are working very hard to train our analysts to help us do within OneStream. Because an AI tool that is 80% of the right, is 80% of the times right, is not actually 100% accurate. And what we're straining towards, what we're trying to achieve is accuracy in terms of finance, because we need to be able to trust those numbers. Remember from the earlier slide? So what kind of questions can you ask the finance analyst? I'll leave them here for you to think about, while I will then go and transition and start sharing my screen and go into the demo. We'll probably need a full screen for this because I recognize that the font might be little. So what I did is I formatted my screen because I know that you probably see my image on the right-hand corner up there. So what I'm going to do is, in this demo app over here, you see this button over here? I'm going to go and click over here, and then I'm going to go and select my finance analyst. Now, in the interest of time, what I did, instead of me, with a microphone and everything else typing these questions, I prepared those prompts. And I'm just going to go and select them. And then I'm going to go and throw them into my finance analyst over here. Here we go. I hope you can see the question I have created. So for March 2025, show the variance between the actual and budget revenue accounts for my strategic customers. Let's go. It'll take some time to think. Usually it thinks faster than I think, so we're going to get somewhere actually today. Oh, we're still in the basic chat. Sorry about that. Let's start over. It didn't go on the finance analyst. Now it did. That's why it wasn't able to produce it. Let's give it just a second. You'll notice that I'm not using the browser. I'm using a web client right now. The reason why I'm doing that is that we're still in the release of functionality. So with the web browser, you'll see you would be presented a result that is a form, what we call a cube view. Instead, I, as an end user, like the possibility to have a more flexible ad hoc analysis type of functionality that we call quick view. And for the time being, as of today, given where we are, that's available if you query it through the web client. That's just one difference right now. It's building the report, so let's let it think. What it's doing is it's providing an answer with me querying it in natural language. So let's think about a use case, a country manager, a service line manager, a product manager, right? I can now use natural language, and I don't need to be an expert in finance of the dimensional model to navigate to what I can go and see. It'll be based on my user profiling, and I will be able to just query it with that natural language and then access the report. So I can access the cube view, which is a static report, a web form, right? With whatever formatting I have decided that it could be. Or I can access, and here you go, right? So I can expand all the different accounts and see my revenue and my adjustments to revenue for the different accounts that I've asked. Or I can also go and open my quick view. And what it'll do is instead open that ad hoc analysis type of functionality, which is the one I prefer to use, right? So for those of us that use OneStream might be very familiar with this. Now I can actually go in here and I can copy this analysis that I have. I can paste it down here. And now I can start, just selecting a scenario. And then maybe I want to select different operation sites or legal entities, and I'll put them in here. And I'll go to the lowest level of analysis. And now I have those same numbers split per operation site or per legal entities or what have you. So I started with natural language. It created the doc analysis for me without me having to think of all the different intersections of all those dimensions. And I got something to start to play around with, right? So now let's talk about, I'm going to go back to my slides. Let's talk about the deep analysis. Today, what you have today is on the left, what's coming tomorrow in the next 3 to 5 months in the center, and then out in the future. So you will be able to use the deep analysis functionality to extract and filter very granular information that is maybe in appendixes, maybe in contracts, maybe, I'm going to have an example here probably of, hey, tell me what customers have what types of discounts and whatnot. And it'll bring all those discounts. Now, sometimes those discounts are in a contract. Sometimes they're in a footnote. Sometimes they're in an appendix. Sometimes the discount is for more customers than one. So this is the type of functionality that you're going to get with deep analysis. Then, of course, going forward, we're going to work on further enhancements to data analysis, data visualization, and financial model integration. But let me just show you over on this slide, and I'll click a few animations so you can just consult them for yourselves, some of the use case examples that we've had, right? So customer contracts and order schedules. In terms of revenue recognition, you can see now how we've actually queried certain things with our deep analysis and then have been able to identify customers that have, for example, more than one active agreement, identify the start and end dates, and determine any overlaps. In the automotive rebate review, we have been able to go and identify all rebate provisions and classify them by each type, for example. So then you can identify contracts that contain rebate provisions specifying to tiered or variable structures, identify the thresholds or the conditions that trigger the changes, right? Because maybe there are different discounts at different levels of tiers and so forth. And then, of course, in services insights, we have also seen how we can identify contracts with milestone-based billing. Like you get to a certain level, now you can bill and so forth. So what can you use deep analysis with today in OneStream? These are additional use cases that I'm going to leave here on the slide for you to look at while I'm going to go back to the demo environment. And I'm going to go and share my screen. Just 1 second. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen. I'm going to go back to my app. And I'm going to go and select the deep analysis here. Now, I'll check my customer contract set, right? Now I'm going to go back to my sheet over here, and I'm going to go and select sorry about that. Sorry about that. 1 second. I wanted to identify the customer contracts that have policies related to discounts and show me customer and the associated discounts per customer. So what it's going to do here on the right is it's going to have certain assumptions and it'll guide me through them. Then if I want to refine my search, it's actually going to ask me some optional questions here. Review these, and if they're applicable, turn them on and answer these. In the interest of time right now, I'm just going to go forward and see what analysis it produces like this. And what it's going to produce, I can close this. Oh, sorry. What it's going to produce on the right here is a result that is more like those PDFs that we get from deep analysis, but you can still query them. So we're going to see how we can leverage that type of functionality today in OneStream. Remember, all of this in that uniquely unified solution that's infinitely extensible. And now you're seeing how it is AI powered in one place. Whereas we say our version of what we think is a platform. So here we go. Please review the generated plan for accuracy. Fantastic. Okay. It looks good to me. Parallel extract each contracts. Okay. Keep only the contracts that actually contain. Fine. Execute on this plan. It's going to produce a deliverable. That deliverable could be a huge, table showing me each and every customer with the discounts, right? And the contracts. But there we go. These are the documents it's analyzing. And I'll be able to, here it is, open up a section and then, copy it or view the document. And the document will be saved wherever it is I think I want to save it. If I go back here and I want to bring the whole table, I can copy it. I can copy it as a CSV file, put it in Excel, or I can just query each and every section that I want to query and look at all the input documents if I want to. Here you'll have the PDF on the side again that you can open, download, and look at. All right, with a summary of what it is I'll find in that table with those discounts, with all the different clauses, with the tiering, with everything else that's pertinent to that contract. So now I'm going to stop sharing my screen and move to the last agent type functionality. And I'm going to go forward here. So I'm going to go through some animations, and I don't know why it's not going forward. I'm having some difficulty here. Can you just help me from... This is very strange. Well, I'll get back to you on this. While we're going through that, and I think you can just go to the use cases when we get there. There we go. This is how you can use the search function. So guided close support, OneStream onboarding. How do I use OneStream? Well, here's Simone that explains it to you, or rather, here is an application guide that you have in OneStream. How do I find it and everything? And then your platform companion as a buddy that's always there available, so you don't have to wait on Simone that is maybe traveling and not answering his Teams message or everything else. So here are some of the additional use cases in which you can use the search functionality, right? Hey, pull out the accounting policy research and generate it, or give me some historical financials review, or how do I get to this part of the application? How do I build a dashboard? How do I use a task manager and so forth? So now I'm gonna go here, share my screen, and I'm gonna go back into my application, and I'm gonna now go and use the search agent. Now, I'm going to use this application guides, right? And let's make that example again that I've been on parental leave for so long that I don't know how to go about any task on OneStream. I created another prompt here. How do I update my forecast? I'm just going to copy and paste it because, as you see, might be a little bit challenged with the microphone here today. So I'm just going to throw it in there. How do I update my forecast? In other times, I would have had to call the controller responsible for that and so forth. Now, with this type of functionality, I'm going to have a guide. I'm going to have a guide that is written like this. And if we give it some time, I'm pretty sure, it's still thinking, that it'll show me some snapshots. Anyhow, from the application homepage, the dashboard, like this one here, I'm just going to go to that dashboard. I'm going to open up this agent again on the right that minimized itself. I will follow these instructions. Let me see why. Let me just do it again because it seemed like it stopped. So I wanted to produce that deliverable. But anyhow, when it comes back with the result, you saw on the list, it was saying, go to the home page, click on the planning tab, and you'll see that again, and then click on forecast, and then start with your assumptions. And then what I would like it to say, there we go. Now it's doing it. Now you see this little icon over here. I'm going to open it. And it has a representation in little of, hey, go to the planning button. Okay. I'm going to do that. I should keep that window open, so sorry about that. I'm just going to pin it. Now that I'm in the planning button, go to the forecast button. Here we go. And I can follow those instructions with this type of application guide. And I think this is quite swift and quite cool for someone that, is not maybe using OneStream for the first time, or maybe needs a refresher like me, or for whatever it is that you want to do for your day-to-day. So that's it for demoing from me. And I think, thank you for your time. I'm open to any questions we may have going forward. I'll try to answer, even though they could come in Polish. Maybe I'll need some help there.
Dziękujemy bardzo za wysłuchanie. Great thanks, Simone, for this 40 minutes. It was really inspiring. Tak jak obiecałem na początku, miało być intensywnie, ale też miało być inspirująco. Mamy nadzieję, że było. Mamy sporo pytań. Dziękujemy za nie. Też mamy świadomość, że jesteśmy trochę po czasie. Obiecujemy z naszej strony, że jeśli nie teraz, to odpowiemy na wszystkie pytania po spotkaniu. Ale może tak naprawdę jeszcze komentując to, o czym Simon mówił, tak? Czyli widzieli Państwo platformę OneStream, bardzo wiele use case'ów, bardzo wiele tych finance capabilities było właśnie w niej pokazanych, ale też ta łatwość integracji z systemami źródłowymi, nie tylko systemami ERP-owymi. I właściwie pojawiło się jedno pytanie, które możemy skierować do Simon, właśnie w kontekście integracji między OneStream a systemami źródłowymi takimi jak SAP. Simon, there is one question that I could hand over to you. What is the way of integration between OneStream and the ERP system like SAP? Can you say a bit more about this one?
Yeah. Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, absolutely. So data quality, remember that fundamental cornerstone of OneStream? We can connect to any solution there is out there from a technical standpoint. We haven't found yet a solution that we have not been able to connect to. There have been instances where the decision has been political or strategic, that they don't want any system to connect to that ERP, but that's a different story. In terms of SAP, we have specific connectors for SAP, S/4HANA, or other, let's say, column solutions of SAP that we connect directly to. And guess what? From this year, the cool thing is that even an end user like me can do it with a wizard approach. So you don't need to know any coding. You don't need to know anything else. You just follow the different questions and you connect to your SAP ERP.
Thank you, Simon. Mamy też kilka innych ciekawych pytań. Może tak naprawdę właśnie mając też świadomość czasu, wybierzemy to, które właśnie dotyczy też troszkę procesów, tak? Czyli też jak finanse, jak controlling mają właśnie wesprzeć to wspieranie celów biznesowych. I pytanie brzmi, czy wdrożenie technologii powinno być poprzedzone zmianą procesów, czy też procesy powinny być zmieniane w trakcie wdrażania tych technologii? Mam swoją opinię, ale czy też, Wojtku, może ty byś chciał zacząć?
Mogę opowiedzieć. Znaczy, generalnie przy procesach wdrożeniowych najlepiej byłoby, gdybyśmy już byli po takim wysokopoziomowym designie procesów i rozwiązania docelowego. No, musimy też wziąć pod uwagę to, że poznajemy możliwości narzędzia w trakcie wdrożenia, tak? Czyli z jednej strony musimy zrobić research i wiedzieć, co chcemy zrobić, zmienić. Często przygotowujemy i też wspieramy klientów w tym, żeby przygotowywać takie mapy docelowych procesów w ramach takich większych transformacji, gdzie też już się dzielimy wtedy tą wiedzą, jak dane narzędzie będzie w stanie wesprzeć konkretny proces. No ale my jako wdrożeniowcy no bardzo często też zdajemy sobie sprawę z tego, że to, co ustalimy na początku, w tej fazie zbierania wymagań funkcjonalnych i designu rozwiązania, no będzie wymagało pewnie lekkich zmian w trakcie budowy, dlatego ważne jest tutaj, żeby trzymać otwartą głowę, no ale absolutnie nie iść na żywioł, tak? Czyli przygotować sobie te flow procesowe wcześniej, przekazać je w formie wymagań funkcjonalnych partnerowi wdrożeniowemu, no ale cały czas mieć otwartą głowę na to, żeby jednak troszkę wykorzystać te funkcjonalności narzędzia, których nie mieliśmy wcześniej może tak dużego pojęcia.
Super, dzięki Wojtek. I chyba ostatnie pytanie, na które odpowiemy teraz na żywo. Po angielsku, how much time does it take to implement the system? I think that I can take this one. Sorry, Simon. Yeah. So I will start, and maybe then, Simon, if you wish, then I could also hand over to you. I think that our approach, also the way how we see the EPM implementation, obviously you are with the system for the years, because the system will support your processes, in the really long term. But the way we approach the implementation of the EPM systems is that the value needs to be brought to the company in agile way and as fast as possible. What means that the first use cases should be implemented, realized, and the business needs to feel the benefit coming from them in maximum 3 to 4 months. Then, you are like also building the trust in the organization. You are starting with the next use cases. So, for example, you can start with the budgeting process or with the financial consolidation process, which you can implement in 3 to 4 months, start the change management process in the organization, adaptation of the system. And once you start feeling first benefits, first like business goals realization in this context, you can think about next use cases. The way we see the whole journey, like, the I would say must-have functionality of the system, like financial reporting, financial management, planning, forecasting, consolidation, also operational planning. We believe that the optimal way of implementing all these use cases shouldn't be longer than 1 year, just because that's the lifespan after which you should start realizing the full benefits coming from the platform. But as I said, it should be built in the agile way, and you cannot wait full year to start feeling the benefits coming from the system. Those should be realized maximum after 3 to 4 months.
I think they are the experts on the implementation. I just like to say that we have 3 different implementation methodology approaches. Universal, a tailor-made shirt, tackling reverse engineering to your pain point that could be maybe not even within the finance function, and that is really hard to estimate, but depends on many different variables, and it typically takes a long time. And there's the classic approach, which is essentially what we were referring to now, and that is the enterprise approach. And so typically for the Office of Finance, and you start with a process and you start with delivering the value in the time we were saying, but still it is maybe not 100% tailor-made suit or shirt, but it's going to fit you quite well. Then there's the express methodology, right? And the express methodology that we're rolling out now and that we're seeing picking up a lot of interest is time to value is between 8 and 16 weeks. You're up and running. Now, is it a tailor-made shirt? No, it's probably going to fit me a little bit tight if you catch my drift, but still it's going to cater for, based on the best practices of all those 1,700 customers that we have out there, it will cater for all the different processes in the different way. And it's built from the best practices of all those different approaches. And so you will get something up and running that is a shirt that's going to fit you, but it's not exactly the way it would fit you if it were built tailor-made. So this is, I think, our short answer, but they are the experts.
Thank you, Simon. I to też na pewno troszkę odnosi się też do priorytetyzacji, czyli faktycznie które use cases, które finance capabilities budowane na platformie mogą w jak najkrótszym czasie mogą jak najbardziej zmaksymalizować korzyści biznesowe. Dobrze, jesteśmy po czasie. Z naszej strony to wszystko, przynajmniej na dzisiaj. Bardzo dziękujemy, że mogliśmy podzielić się z Państwem naszą wiedzą, naszym doświadczeniem, ale też metodologią oraz zobaczyć, jak jedna z wiodących platform może pokrywać dużą część tych finance capabilities w praktyce. Bardzo dziękujemy. Mamy nadzieję, że do zobaczenia i do usłyszenia. No i oczywiście miłego popołudnia. Dziękujemy.